Hey everyone, John here from CONTRABIM, and in this tutorial we are going to go through and build up using morphs, objects, and some basic elements like walls. We're going to be building up this detailed model of an exterior light fixture. So there's going to be a lot of interesting little segments in this tutorial sequence. We'll be using a lot of morphs, a lot of revolved morphs. We'll be creating this little rope shape here, which is really pretty interesting how we put that together. So you'll definitely want to check that out. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We're just going to essentially go through, build this up, create some different views of it for sections, elevations, and we're going to be doing all of this just from a few pictures here. So if you want to follow along and just grab these pictures and use that as a reference, I'll post a link here in the description to the blog where you can just grab these images and then you can follow along through each of these different steps. It's going to be a little bit longer of a video, but I think there's a lot of little tips and tricks in here, and it's pretty fun to do this type of modeling. I don't do this very often, but it is fun to go to this level of detail. We'll cap it off by adding a light source, and then we'll do some renderings and save it off as an object. So yeah, if you are not already subscribed to this channel, definitely make sure to do so. That way you get all of our latest notifications when we come out with new videos. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this exercise. All right, so I'd like to start here on a worksheet that I've set up that contains a few different pictures I took of this lamp object that we're going to be building up. So first thing here that I want to just point out is I did go out and I took some measurements for the general sizing of each of these different components. And so just in general here, overall height is about just under 2 feet. And I went through and I did take some measurements really at each different cross section so that I could try to get as close as possible as we move up the lamp. So we're really going to be starting this by working on the base to begin with. We can start with just a general shape. We can always come back in and work on these the ribs later on if we want to get a little bit extra detail, but that's really not the focus of the lamp. Really the focus is going to be this section right here, like the window into the light zone, which has some really cool features. It has this rope feature, which I'll show you how we can build that in Archicad. Definitely took me a few times to figure out how to do that, but I think you'll really be excited about how we can do those in Archicad. Of course, we have all these kind of feature I don't know, ear type shape geometry that fills in the voids. And of course we have the cap and the dome here, so we'll work on those as well. So you can see that I've already kind of done some general outlining here on the profile for the base and the cap. So that's really where we'll begin. And so we'll just start at the bottom, work our way up, and then we'll go and fill in the void. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started here with this base. You can see that it's a square base with a circular section coming out of this. So we'll actually do this in two parts. But let's get started with our square base, which is going to be a 6x6 square, about 1 inch tall, I believe. Or that's at least how we're going to set it. So, all right, let's jump over to our plan view here. Quick note on this project file. This is just like a base object building file that I've developed. It's part of the kind of the CONTRABIM template here. So it's real simple. We have a few sections. We just have a few grid lines to represent our X and Y. And we're primarily going to be working in plan view and on this X1 section cutting through our view here. But let's jump in and let's get that base going. So I'm just going to start from our 0 point. We can use this geometry method for a box. And so let's just plug in the X direction 6 inches, in the Y direction 6 inches, and then when it asks our extrusion length, let's go 1 inch. So, okay, there we are. I'm going to take this. I'm going to use our little center point guides here to snap it so that we have this centered on our grid lines. And then I'm going to hit F5 and we'll take this to 3D so we can take a look at it here. I can see that I have a 3D style turned on for kind of a white model, so we'll get rid of that. And the next thing I want to do is I want to give this a little bit of some rounded edges here, both on the sides, or really on the top as well as on the sides. If we look at the image here, you can see that some fillets would look nice. So let's go ahead and do that. So with the morph here, we can really start by going in and selecting our different lines. With a morph, you can select the lines by holding down Control, just as if you were to select it, but then you also hold down Control, and that will allow you to go in and just pick and choose which lines you want to select. So I'm calling them lines, but really they are the edges in this case, and so we're selecting the edges that we want to add a fillet on. So okay, I think I got them all, the 4 top and the 4 edges, or the, you know, these faces. And so now that we've done that, we can just right click on, sorry, shoot, I blew that one. Let's select them again real quick. So we're grabbing all of these, and we'll grab this one, and then I'm just going to click on, I'm left clicking on one of the edges, and so we will go into our pet palette here and grab our fillet chamfer edges. And so with this, I think we're fine with 1/4 inch. That should be good. We do want to click this apply to all edges. In this case, it's only going to apply it to the ones that we clicked. You can see that the bottom has not been filleted, and so that is pretty much what we want. So there we go. We have our base started. Next step is let's work on kind of this next section coming out of it here. So I'm going to actually take all of this here. We'll just copy and we will paste it onto our X1 section here. So you can see there's our base. We're copying and pasting in our line work. And so now we can work on this section right here. So one thing that I would like to do is really the way I think this fits together is it's really kind of like a sleeve where one part fits over another. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little extension on this line here. And then we're going to take both of these and we are going to offset both. And I'm going to make a copy when we're doing this. So we don't need to go very far on this. We can go maybe, I don't know, like 1/16 of an inch. So we have our copy there. And then I'm just simply going to connect these at the top. And I'm going to use holding down Control to just cut out that little segment right there. And so now we can actually take this whole thing, and one thing I think I might do actually, let's do this for our next move as well up here. So we're going to take this, we're going to offset, let's offset 1/16 of an inch. And I just want to kind of see where it hits here. So it does hit exactly on. I think I'm going to take this entire segment and let's give this just a slight push so that we're not exactly on there. So I'm just going to offset this just slightly there. So, okay, there we go. That looks good. Going to trim that little guy up, and then let's go to our morph, and we will create this shape as a revolved geometry. So if we set this up right, we should be able to simply just do a magic wand. I think I should probably, well, let's see what we get when we start. So I can see that it's going to actually not include this segment down below, which is fine in this case. So there we go. And so with this input method, we want to pick our center line here. So it's essentially our first point on our revolution axis is what we're going for. And so we're going to be clicking on the center line, and then you can see as soon as we click, it's going to ask us where can we complete that center line axis. And so obviously we just want to create another point directly on here. And then we set this to 360 degrees, and there we are. So we now have that component, and we can essentially just merge it together with our base if we wanted, or we can leave it as separate elements for now. That's fine. And next up, let's do the same exact thing for our next component here. So again, I'm doing a magic wand, and we are going to go directly down the middle. So, okay, just like that, we've created really these 3 main pieces of our base. Next up, let's get this this kind of rim that is running around the base in here as well. We can see from this picture here that it's actually not, it doesn't go all the way through, so it's not solid. We'll create this center part and these 3 supports separately, but let's just work on getting this profile working. And it actually looks like there's a little bit of an angle there as well. So I think I might make a quick modification here to our component, so or to our profile. So with that, we can give it a little bit of just a slight rotation here, or a slight angle. So that might just give it a little extra flair. And so yeah, let's go ahead and get this one working as well. So we'll go with our revolved geometry. This one's simple enough here that I can probably just kind of start and get this working just by kind of tracing out our shape. And there we go. And we will revolve it right around that center line as well. So, all right, just like that, we are really starting to get this working. We can actually add in this center point as well by creating a little revolved section right here in the middle. Maybe we'll just take it up to about that height right there. And so this is going to be solid in this case. And so we've created this shape, and now we're just going to revolve it. We want to be sure that we can see that preview. You can actually see when I'm working right on this line. We only get it when we move our mouse to the top, so that's important in order to actually fulfill and to get this shape coming all the way out. And then once we've done that, we can let's see, if we pick up the settings here, let's see if we can get it in at that right elevation when we go to draw this in 2D. So I'm going to just measure this. So this is 5.5 inches to the top. Let's jump to our plan view. We can see that we're trying to highlight directly that component. So I don't think that's the one. That's the one that we want. So 5.5 inches. And so from here, I'm going to my morph. We can drop this directly in at 5 inches, and then we'll be extruding it up in the positive direction. So, okay, so with this, let's get the general shape going. In this case, we'll actually be using a box once again, and we can go through and offset this to make sure that we have this directly or exactly how we want it. But I'm thinking, yeah, maybe 5/8 inch in this direction should do it. And we're going to extrude 1/4 inch. And actually, we're not quite where we want to be. We want to actually connect those over. So what we can do is let's just cut a marquee right through here, and then let's get these two connect. So we'll take this, pull it up 1/4 inch, and then we just simply can offset this by clicking on the face. We'll just offset it in, and then we'll end up just connecting all these. So, okay, so there we go. We're going to take this segment here, and we're going to do a Control U. So this will allow us to rotate. So we'll certainly want to rotate to path. And in this case, we can do a distribute -1, and we'll be doing 2 copies of this. So we'll start right here, go straight up. We'll take it all the way around, and then there we go. So now we'll take these 3, and we will simply just union. And there we go. So now we have these, and so that should be looking just fine. Let's check it out here in our full 3D view. So looks pretty good. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's continue on our way up. And so let's jump back to our lamp worksheet here for a second. So we've completed the base all the way up to this point. So let's jump up to the top here. And so I'm just going to copy these segments up here, or this little bit of line work that I've created. I'm going to copy, and then we are going to paste that directly into our section here. So paste, there we are. And so with this here, we certainly have a lot of line work already kind of set up and going. I think I'm going to provide just a little bit of simplicity to the back of this. So I'll explain this as we're going through and modeling this, because one thing we need to kind of keep into, or we want to make sure that we're aware of, is just how many polygons we're creating as we go through this. So if we can limit some of our radius revolved geometry, is going to cut down on some of our polygons here. So in this case, I know that we can probably just essentially go in with about the same thickness that we have down here, so a little over 1/2 inch. And so from here we can just start creating this shape here. I think what I'll actually do, though, to make this super easy and to be able to use the magic wand, is let's just do a quick measurement over, so a little bit over 1/2 inch here. We'll go 5/8, and from here I'm going to just kind of start us up. So we'll give a little bit of a base there, and then I'm going to just kind of give this, we'll just go with a little bit more thickness on this one. I realize that this is probably going to be a bit more of a thin shell than what I'm modeling, but for now this is fine. We can just go with this, and should be fine. So we'll bring this all the way over. We'll leave a little screw hole here, and let's just click. And so there is, yeah, that's good enough for our profile. We can always take these, and if we wanted to, we can just offset it a little bit just to get it maybe a little bit closer. So something right in there would probably be fine, and then we'll just pull this one back, and let's just cap it off there. So extend that and trim. Okay, so we'll also trim this little line right there so that we can get this nice and revolved. And so let's click here. So it looks like we're getting just a little bit of an overlap right here. So what I'll do is I'm going to pull that one back temporarily. And so let's try this again with our morph. And okay, so there we go. That looks good. Let's revolve directly down the middle. And okay, so there is our main dome of our lamp in this case. So next step is I'm going to come back here. I'm going to reconnect that, and then we'll see. I'm just going to take a line, and we'll connect this up in the middle, and then let's get this one placed as well. Okay, so there we are. We definitely got a lot going on here. Sometimes in a view like this, when we have all these different lines in here, it does start to get a little bit kind of congested looking. So I'm going to delete all of our lines as well as our arcs. And so that's just going to clean this up nicely for us. You can see that I did one of these here with a spline, so we can get rid of that one as well. And so now we have a much nicer view here of our model, and we can always go in and adjust some of our cut sections. Cut line pen, let's reduce this down a lot so that when we go to this line weight, it's starting to look much better. So okay, there we go. Let's can't wait to see how this looks in 3D. So that looks good. Let's turn off our contours. So I'm definitely liking the general shape of this so far. So yeah, that really concludes our base and our cap. And now it's time to start getting to the fun part, which is going to be working on our middle section. So as promised, I would describe how we can create this rope geometry here within Archicad. I definitely took a few shots at trying to do this in preparation, and I'll be honest, it was a little bit tricky to figure out, but I have figured out a method for doing this. It probably wouldn't work in every application of a rope, but it works certainly in this case where we essentially have just a straight segment here. And so yeah, let's talk about how we can create that. So often within Archicad here, we have some in our object library. In the US version here, it's under our special construction. It's just these basic shapes, and often we kind of forget that these shapes exist, but there are some pretty useful ones that we have here. So like even looking at this now, like the curve base, we could have used that certainly as some parts of the model that we've done already. We have a dome, different shells, different elbows and tubes. But you can see as I get down here which one we're going to use for a rope. And of course, it's going to be our spiral 24. So as I was playing around with this actually works really quite well. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm just going to go in, I'm going to set this to our metal iron, which is our surface that we're using for the rest of our geometry. And one thing we can do here is the next thing is we want to kind of go in and start adjusting our sizing here. So first thing that we can do is we can just change our sweep angle, so that would be a full 360. So now our radius of our axis line. So this is where we really need to shrink this down. So just as an example, let's go to like 1/4 inch. And so you can see that we got a little bit of a wiggle to it here, but we still have a really thick radius on this tube. So let's drop this down to 1/4 of an inch as well. This segment that we are trying to build, I know is just it's right at 8 inches is like the gap between our base and our cap on the top. I'm going to set this to be about like 7.5 inches. And so you can kind of see as we do this here, how we're already starting to get this little bit of a, a spiral looking shape going. I think we're too thick right now. So let's go to 1/8 of an inch. And so let's just go through and give that a shot and kind of see how this creates our overall geometry. And next thing though I want to do is I'm just going to change our contour pen. I don't like having these light browns. So we'll just set this to like a sharp kind of gray. Our axis line pen, that's fine. We can leave that as is. And yeah, so let's go ahead and place one. We'll just place it here off to the side. And so we can kind of see how this is coming in. So there we go. That is our little spiral that you can see. And so it took me a little bit of playing around with this before I figured out exactly how we can get this to rope up. And the way that I figured this out was we're going to be using a multiply option here. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it exactly right on top of itself. And we're going to be doing, well, let's see, we're going to be doing a, definitely going to be rotating this to path. And we want to do, essentially, we're going to be distributing 2 of these around. We're going to have 3 of them total. And we want to, yeah, I think this will actually work as is. So if we do this distribute -1, then that should work. The other way to do this would be to rotate it like 2 copies, 240 degrees. But I think this is really going to be the same result here. So, so we'll start from our center point. We'll click out to the top, and then we're just going to rotate this all the way around. We want to be 360. So, so yeah, let's see if that works for us. Okay, so that certainly looks like a bit of a rope to me. And yeah, that is what we were going for. So, so let's do this now. Let's take a look at this in the section. And I just want to, I thought I had changed those. Okay, our cut fill, that's why it's coming through like that. We'll just change this to a light gray. Our surface override, we want to set this to metal iron. Okay, so we still got that light gray or that light brown pen, cut line pen. Okay, so let's check the overall width of this. So it looks like we are about half an inch. Let's go back and do a quick check here on our pictures just to get an idea. I feel like this is probably a little bit too thick. So I think we probably want to be kind of more in the range of like 3/8 or so. So let's go in and let's make some adjustments here as well. So we can do this in 3D. And the first thing I want to point out, while we have these kind of already roped up, we can make some adjustments here. We're not limited to our sweep angle of 360. We could go to like 720, and you can kind of see how this looks now. So that definitely, tightened our rope up a little bit. We could go much higher than this and just go to like some generic 2000 as a number. And so you can see that that really is starting to rope up very tight. Any tighter than that, and I think we might start getting some overlapping issues. Let's see. I'm just kind of curious. I haven't taken this super far, like to 4,000, but let's see what we get when we do that. So yeah, that's very roped up, but I think it's way too much in this case. So I think we probably want to be maybe around like 900 for the specific height that we have, but I still think that we are a little bit too thick here. So what we can do is we can go back in and let's change our angle or our radius to like 1/16 and our radius of our tube to 1/16, and let's see what that gives us. So okay, so we got a little issue here. Things have kind of broken apart, and I think that we are kind of a little bit too small here now anyway. And so let's go ahead and let's kind of go somewhere in between. So let's go to like 330 seconds. In order to input this, you have to definitely have your working units set to that. So okay, so that looks okay, but we're still kind of broken apart here. So let's redo this. So I'm going to delete. I need to delete 2 of these. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to place this right back on, and then we're going to re-rope this up by just doing the exact same thing. Okay, so let's see how we look. Okay, so that's definitely a little smaller diameter. It's a little bit tough to see here from the 3D just because it's all kind of relative, but that definitely looks much better. So I'm liking that. Let's go with it. Okay, so next thing, we can just take this right now. Actually, what I'll do is we can create a copy if we wanted to have one as a base, but let's go ahead and convert these to a morph. Actually, there's one other thing that I think we should do before. Let's do this. I'm going to highlight this in 3D. And one thing is, let's see about, this would be a good time to actually go in and check out under our palettes, our poly count. And so let's set this here to selection only, or let's see. So let's select, refresh. So we have 3 objects. Okay, so you can see how many polygons we have here. So that's a lot already just from our selection. Okay, it's a little bit funny. I think that's working how we want it. Yeah, 3 objects, 3 spirals, total of 8,000 polygons. I'm just curious, if we delete one and we refresh, okay, yeah, so that is, yeah, just under 3,000 total here. So if we take all of these here, we have the option in this particular case to reduce our resolution. So let's go to, let's go in half. Let's go to 12. Okay, and let's refresh. And so you can see that cut it by like 75%, but it's starting to look a little bit chunky here. So let's kind of go in between. Let's try like 18 as our resolution. And so that got rid of the little bit of chunkiness that we had. and you can see now we're about half. So that's one way of just going through and trying to reduce this down just a little bit. In this case, on each one of these, we have 18 faces essentially. So that's one way that we can reduce this. And overall, that's going to save us, I don't know, probably 20, 30,000 polygons or so. Okay, so that was one thing that I just want to point out before we take this. And let's just, we're going to create a copy, and then let's convert selected to morphs. We're going to close this down. And okay, so there we go. We'll take this. Let's union. Okay, and all right. So there we go. We have our spiral or our rope. So next up, on this rope, we have a little bit of an extra detail here. And so first of all, let's place it, kind of get it in the general shape that we want, or in the general location. So we'll be coming right off of that segment. We'll actually come in and angle this a little bit later, but and next step here is we actually have a little detail right on top here. So with this, yeah, you can see that our total here, our height should be around 8 inches. So let's get a profile going on this one right here. We'll do this with some lines. So I'm just going to start by kind of drawing right down the middle. We can just kind of bring this over. We'll just kind of bulge this out right there. We'll bulge that out. We'll take this straight up and bulge that. So with this, I'm just going to kind of create the general shape first, and then we'll come back in and I'm just going to give these some offsets. To try to get this close to what we want in this case. So that one's a little large there. I'm going to add one extra little point in here, and then we'll pull this out. So I'm not liking this last one. Let's add a little angle first, and then we'll bulge. Okay, that looks a little better. So let's copy, or we can cut. We're not going to need it here again. But then let's come over here to our section. We can paste just in the center of our current view is fine. But let's take this, we'll snap it somewhere right up in here. We're going to want, because we're going to tilt this, we're going to want to have just a little bit of like an overlap here. But with this, let's, we can, first of all, we just want to try to make sure that we are right on the center. So a little bit tough to find that point on the rope here, but I think maybe like at the bottom we can get a little bit closer. I think that's close enough in this case. And so yeah, let's go ahead, give this a rotation right down the middle. Okay, and so we know all of this is directly on our section, so we can just take these now. Let's just isolate and just make sure that it looks okay. So that looks good to me. I like that. So we'll just take this. We're going to union. And so now that's going to be going in and cleaning this up and kind of cutting out some of these little parts and pieces there. So one other thing we can do here is we can always go in and just kind of change this to like soften our edges. So that's going to kind of take some of the edge off, and I think it actually helps it render a little quicker here as well. So anyway, yeah, we are moving right along. We can take this now and we can give it our rotation right from essentially from the middle here. So we'll take it straight up, and then we are going to rotate from this point. Going to rotate over. And in this case, I'm a little bit more interested in getting this top detail showing up than this bottom detail, but we got a little bit of overlap there, so that's good. And so yeah, we can just hide those, and ultimately we can merge all these together if we want to get rid of some of these. I'm going to take this and swing it out just slightly. So okay, that's looking good. Let's see how we're looking here in 3D. So starting to come together. I'm going to take these ropes here. We'll just stick it on a hide layer and hide the layer. So, okay, next up, we got this in. We can see that we have it rotated or angled a little bit. And so now we can just go through and rotate it around. So we'll be using our multiply. We will distribute with the -1, or 1 less, I should say. We'll be doing 5. We are certainly rotating to path, and we're just working from our center point and all the way around. And there we go. We can see those popping up, and there we are. So once again, jumping back to 3D, and you can see this is really starting to come together now. So it's always fun working with symmetry like this, where you can just quickly go in and start building these parts and pieces out. But yeah, overall, I'm really liking that. That looks good. Those ropes look awesome. So very happy with this so far. Okay, so next up, we got all these little parts and pieces to fit in the middle. And so let's go ahead and just do a little bit of work here on our picture views. So what I'm going to do is let's start by just kind of creating a bit of a center line here. So I'm going to draw just a line in. We'll make this exactly 8 inches. And so what I want to do is I want to just kind of drag this over so that we have this directly on our center point. And then I'm going to take this image and I'm going to rotate it from that joint right over there so that we have this exactly kind of in symmetry with our center line here. So next step is we're going to be using a spline to do this next part. So here under more, we'll go to our spline tool. And what I've found when doing these types of inputs is essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to draw these splines in, and then we'll take a complex profile, which is just a circular shape. And we're just going to try to use our magic wand here to create these shapes by using like a wall or a beam would be fine. And then we'll convert that to a morph and rotate it around. But what I've found when creating these shapes is the less points we can put onto our polyline, the better off we're going to be. So we want to keep these kind of nice, and you know, if we can try to keep them to maybe like 10 points or less, then I think that's going to help us. So we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so hopefully this is going to work well for us, but you never know until you actually start to go and place elements. So it's good to not it's good to keep these where it's not a super sharp angle, is what I'm trying to get at here, just so that we don't have issues with the intersections with the geometry we're going to use to trace over this here. So I think the less points here and the smoother the shape, the better. Like that last one there, this just got a little bit sharp there. So I'm going to see if I can smooth this out just a little bit by moving that point, and then we'll just shift that one over a little bit. So, okay, let's go here to there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so next up here, we're going to grab all of this. I'm going to copy, and we'll go to our plan view, and I'm just going to paste it off to the side for the moment. So, okay, there we are. And next step is we want to go to a wall tool. In this case, I actually already have this set. This is set to a circle solid. So this is just a complex profile. And we can go through with this one and we can actually adjust our width on this. So maybe we start at like 1/8 of an inch and see how that looks. We'll set this to just 0. And so now when we magic wand over this, we can see that this is coming in nicely. So that worked great. That worked great as well. And so all of these, because we paid a kind of close attention to how we were inputting those, they seemed like they all came in quite nicely. So what I think I want to do is I'm going to turn on our lamp worksheet just as a reference. And I just want to kind of get an idea of how close we actually are here to our sizing. So I'm just going to take this entire thing and drag it up. And so you can see we need to go way thicker on this with these walls. So let's go in here. Let's go back to 1/4 inch. So that's our height. So our width is the one we really need to adjust. So yeah, I think 1/4 was right, is kind of right where we want it. So, okay, so with this, we can also see that we have a little bit of overlap here between these different segments. So now would be the time to go in and make some of these just slight adjustments. So I'm just going to drag this down just a little bit so we're barely touching. I might take this entire thing and just rotate it just slightly to get it out of our center line. I'm okay if there's a little bit of an overlap, that's no problem. But we'll take this. Oh, I don't want to copy it. Don't want to undo that rotation either. So we're just going to take this and let's just rotate it slightly out. So one more, just get out of there. Okay, so there we go. That's looking pretty good. I think on this one, I may make a slight adjustment here. And we can do this after the fact, just by highlighting some of these. And we can take this and we can just kind of push it over. Or we can change our rotation on this. This is going to be a better method. So hopefully I didn't screw anything up there. But we'll definitely want to go in and do like a quick check here in 3D just to make sure. And okay, so we definitely got a few little issues here. So you can see how this one in particular is a little bit out. So when we get these, we often want to just come in here, and if we make just a slight adjustment on the placement of this, so if we push this over just a little bit, then sometimes we can get these two just kind of reconnect. So, or maybe we just want to adjust one of them first. And then let's try to get it back. And let's just change our angle just a little bit. So we always want to make this good before we go and convert it to a morph, obviously. So, okay, so that was one. The other is right here. So once again, let's just kind of, we'll start by pulling it back. So maybe it wasn't that side that needed work. Maybe it was this other side. So we'll pull this back. And, oh, my mouse is a little bit sensitive today. And let's try taking this one and rotating that one. So we do want these to connect. So I'm going to take this, pulling it off. So once again, that kind of killed it for us, but we're just going to keep playing with this until we get it. So we know where we broke those. It's right here. And so this is one of those cases where we're just a little bit sharp. And so we need to just make a slight adjustment here. And hopefully we can get these to merge up. So I think the other thing might be the fact that we just have a few too many little points in here. Looks like we made it a lot worse. So what we can do is let's just start pulling these back. And let's just see what happens when we take this one. And in this particular case, we're just going to swing it. And yeah, that's close already. So we can take this and we can try doing this with less pieces here. And so let's see if that does it for us. I don't see where our issue is, so I think we're good. So, all right. So it takes a little bit of, it can be a little bit quirky, some of those intersections at times. But that's why we try to give it a little bit of thought before we do it. And okay, there we go. Let's take these. Let's just grab all of our walls now. So actually, there's one more thing we need to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to add just these little connectors here at the top. And I'm actually going to take this, I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit. So let's go to like 1/8 of an inch on our width and on our height. So now we just have like a little connector there. And let's add a little connector here at the bottom as well. So those can be a little bit oversized just because we want them to sit into that base. So, okay, let's get this last step going here. So we'll do a marquee around this. A selection is what we should do. So where the heck are those? I don't know where my little connectors went. Okay, so something's off on those. I don't know what exactly it is, but let's bump these up just a little bit in size. See if that does anything. No. Oh, okay. So there we are. So we got a little, feels like a little glitch happening, but that's okay. We can always add these little connectors later. It's just easier to do it here. So let's do this. We're just going to take a morph. These are still walls actually. So let's actually do this. We're going to take all of these walls. Let's just create a copy for the moment. We're going to convert these to a morph. Okay. And so now that we've done this, now let's take that wall and we'll add these little connectors. And let's just grab all of these. Okay, there we go. So in this particular case, it was just a little bit easier to get this functioning after converting it to a morph. So okay, there we go. So I'm going to do one more conversion here. So let's go convert those to morphs, and then we're going to union everything here. So now that we've done that, we should be good to take this. We're going to just simply drop it right here on our center mark. Let's go to our section in the Y direction. So there's our section. We are going to rotate. Can definitely feel it's slowing down just a little bit here, but that's okay. So we're going to place this. We are going to rotate. So that looks about right in terms of our overlap there. And okay, so we did that in the other direction. Let's see what side we are facing. Okay, so we can actually see that we are right in the middle here. So next step that we want to do is we need to actually give it a rotation so that everything here is going to feel very round. And so we'll actually take this. We know we were right on our center line. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to rotate it off a little bit. And so with that, we're getting much closer to where we want it. But we also want to give this kind of like a free form rotation from our front elevation as well. So that way we can get this pretty much right in line where all these pieces are coming together. So if we go to our front elevation, then we can do that rotation here, and we are almost done in that case. So, so yeah, we're looking good. Definitely am liking this. We can take just a guideline here and kind of just get a little bit more of a reference over here. Oh, I can see I already have one just right down the center. And so what I'm trying to do is I want to get this so that we're not having much overlap here. So so from this point here at the top, I can see that that's pretty much right where I want it. So I'm going to do a rotation from this point, and we're just going to move this bottom part out just a little bit. So we'll take it from about there, and we'll snap that right on our center line. So there we go. So that looks good. I can even take it now and I can mirror it right down the middle. Okay. And so you can see how we can quickly just go through now and get the rest of this built out. So let's do one quick preview here in 3D just to make sure that things are looking good in line. So I'm liking that. So if anything, I could pull this in just a little bit. So maybe we'll do that here in 2D. So we'll grab this. We'll grab this. Let's set these to like a soft edge. And so that way it's going to clean up our floor plan just a little bit. And let's just kind of pull this over just a little bit. It doesn't need to be much. But that way we're like a little bit more in line with our post there as well. So yeah, that looks good. I like that. Okay, here's the satisfying part. We'll take this. If I can find those points. So we can group those together and Control U to rotate. We're doing 5 copies here. So we're just taking it around now. All the way around. And there we are. So that's my favorite part, of course, is just that last rotation, just because then we can see everything all together. So, okay, with that, I don't need these other parts anymore. We're done with them. So I'm just going to highlight and delete. Okay. Just as a quick test here, let's see where we're at with our poly counts. So 64,000, yeah, we're definitely getting up there. But that's okay. I don't, you know, the goal of this exercise was not necessarily to keep it, you know, a small file size, but yeah, it was more so about getting the detail and the geometry wanted. And so yeah, I'm definitely liking the look of this here. So we can look at a few different views to kind of like get an idea how this is coming through. Detailed shading. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I like it a lot. Okay, so we got a few more steps here that I wanted to do before we wrap this one up. The next one is going to be, let's go grab a, not a hotspot, but let's grab a lamp. And let's place a lamp right, or a light fixture, a light source directly within here. So let's grab just our general light. We can use kind of all these base settings that we have here. One thing I might do is maybe just like adjust our color just a little bit. Maybe we'll go like a little bit more like warmish orange. That should be fine. Let's turn off, you see how we have this, we're showing the illumination outline here in 3D. So let's turn that off so we don't get that saving through into our object. And so let's now just go ahead, we'll place it right in the middle. We will delete out what we don't need. Oh, I can see that came in much too tall there. So we're going to take this and we're just going to drop it pretty much right in this location here where the light will be. And okay, so with that, let's give this a quick render and see how we are looking. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. Definitely the light could have a little bit more color here. So that's one thing when saving out objects is we definitely want to try to get the light kind of as close as possible to what we want, so that we don't have to do so much work in the GDL later on. So let's go back and just, I think it's also a little too bright. So let's go to like 90%. And let's get this a little bit more of in like the orangish. And let's give that a shot now. Okay, so Archicad definitely crashed there on me real quick. So fired it back up. It looks like the only thing we really lost here is that is the light source. So we were going in to change that anyway. So let's drop one more in here. We already know the settings and the adjustments we wanted to make. So let's pull this up. We are going to electrical. We're adding a general light. we're going to drop this down to about 90. We're changing our coloration kind of somewhere in here to get a little bit more color coming through. And it crashed again. Okay, so we're back. Let's try adding this light source again. I'm just going to once again save. And let's see what the deal is. For whatever reason, it did not like some of those adjustments I was making there at the end. So seems like a little bit of a glitch. But let's nonetheless get this to work, because this is really the final step before saving this off as an element. So I think we'll leave this as 100%. So let's just do a preset here of like a warm white fluorescent, and let's just go with that so I don't have to hopefully make any other adjustments here. So our height in this case, I think we're about, I don't know, 1'6" if I had to guess. And so once again, we'll pull this up. So yeah, that maybe is a little bit too tall. I'm going to drop that down just a little bit. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that show illumination in 3D so that we don't get that. And okay, so all right, let's do one more render here, and then we'll just go and save this off as an object. Okay, so that looks much better in terms of our lighting. Obviously, there's some other things that could be improved. Probably want to try to get that moon out of there. Didn't expect to see that at the bottom. But okay, so let's take this one step further, and that is essentially going to be just going in and saving this off as a library part. So we're going to select everything here. We're going to go to libraries and objects. Save selection as an object, and so I'm just going to call this exterior lamp 2. Okay, and let's just go ahead and hit save. And so by doing this here, we can see some different settings. So I'm going to change one of those. I think that blue was the what we did those kind of curly shapes with. This all looks good. And okay, so there we go. So now when we go to our object, we should be able to just simply place. Of course, we can adjust our insertion point here to be our center, but there we go. We can see we have a nice preview of it. In elevation, it may take a second, but that looks great. So really like this. And okay, so there we are. We can we should be able to tell, we should be able to render that out just the same. But one thing we can do is we can go by hitting Control-Shift-O. We can go in and edit this library part. So we can change our subtype is typically going to be one of the first things we do. So we'll go in electrical elements. We'll just set this as a light. So that will be fine. We could also set it as like an LPM lamp template, but that's really more for using the library part maker. So we'll just go with the light for now. And yeah, we can always go in and change some of our, like our 3D views. We can, capture this. Sometimes I'll just do like a quick snip, copy that. Preview picture, paste, and let's just save. So we don't need to save the image, but so there we go. Now we have that in there. And yeah, of course we go into our 2D symbol and go into our 2D plan, 2D view, and go through and clean things up if we wanted to. But that's okay. I don't mind it with this level of detail for right now. But yeah, so there we are. We now have a this lamp placed, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So hopefully you picked up a few little tips and tricks here along the way. Definitely had fun doing this, so hope you did as well while watching it. Again, if you wanted to grab those photos, then definitely check out the blog. And yeah, hope you can take this and do some cool things with some of these techniques on your own. And yeah, we'll definitely be back to do more modeling here in Archicad on doing different objects, because certainly is a fun program to work in. There's obviously a few little quirks and frustrations along the way, but something like this, I don't know if I could ever do in the Paramo type situation, but when using Morphs, certainly you can get some pretty awesome detail and geometry coming out of these parts. So definitely had fun doing this. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. We'll wrap this one up here, and I'll catch you on another video very soon. Thanks for watching.